young YouTubers promise that this dream is possible with the print-on-demand side hustle. Look, I won't make claims like this. I've been around a lot longer, and from my experience, if you need grand promises just to listen, then you won't succeed anyway. However, I will promise to give you a step-by-step guide to starting print-on-demand. I'm going to show you exactly where to click and what to do to make this business work with $0. You'll even learn how to make products like this and sell them internationally. This is coming from someone who hasn't just started a few little internet businesses and sold a few print-on-demand items. I'm an established millionaire businessman that's been running companies for over 35 years. So I'll be sharing some of the lessons that you can only learn from having years of experience. I know starting a new side hustle seems daunting as there's so much to learn. That's why this is the only print-on-demand for beginners video you need to watch before you take action. Right, so I'm going to split this into 10 different sections to make sure to cover absolutely everything. Firstly, what is print on demand? Put simply, it's a risk-free way of starting out in business. Let's say you wanted to start a clothing brand but don't have a factory to make thousands of unique clothing products, nor do you want to end up with a basement full of unsold shirts like a hoarder. That's where print on demand swoops in to save the day. Print on demand allows you to pay for your products only after your customers order them. These products are then printed with your unique designs and delivered directly to your customers. This allows you to run everything with very little money. This isn't just limited to clothing. You can also do mugs, posters, bags, and even cushions. This side hustle is ideal for someone who doesn't want the hassle of starting a full-time business, but wants to earn passive income. You can work from your laptop, and as your income scales, the time you put into the business shouldn't need to change significantly. Isn't it wild how these days you can potentially rake in millions without even physically touching a single product? This concept would have blown my mind in my day. The data backs this up, as currently the global print-on-demand market is worth nearly $6 billion. And that's expected to rise to 40 billion by 2031. From my time in the business world, I've seen firsthand how crucial it is to operate in the right market. Believe me, I've seen some seriously smart people hit rock bottom because they were busy building their brand in a market that was on the decline. But here's where print on demand is different. Even if you're just an average Joe in the entrepreneurial world, you could potentially rake in a fortune if you dive into a booming market like this one. To get started, you need 5 things. 1, a winning product. 2, a great design to go on the product. 3, a place to sell the product. 4, a great supplier. And 5, of course, paying customers. But don't worry, we're going to cover all of this today. By the way, if you're new here, then I'm Mark and I make videos sharing my years of wisdom so that you can grow your wealth. So if that interests you, make sure to subscribe to get more videos like this one. So how do I find a winning product? This is the first question most people ask when they're getting into print on demand, and rightly so, because if you get this wrong, then it could make the difference between your store getting hundreds of sales and none whatsoever. From my experience, a winning product has 2 main components: the product category and the design. Now, you might think all of these product categories are created equal, but far from it. You need to be very strategic about which one you decide to use for your blank canvas. You may be thinking, why not just pick all of them and use the same design across every product? Now, although this may sound like a good idea, it really isn't. At first, your designs probably aren't going to be that great. This means you're going to waste a ton of time and money focusing on different products and not getting any sales. Instead, I want you to pick one product category and give it your entire focus. Once you hit over 10K per month with that product type, then you can repurpose the same designs on other products in a new shop. It's much better to become a master of one product than a jack of all trades. This even applies to color options. Personally, I'd never offer more than 7 different variations, as that tends to overwhelm the customer. And you know what? They end up buying nothing. So you have a big decision to make. So let me help you eliminate some of the categories. Cards and calendars are a big no from me, as they're extremely seasonal. You want a product that's evergreen and sells continuously, no matter what the time of year. Mugs, iPhone cases, and stationery. They don't really sell for very much, so personally I'd stay away from these. My rule is to have at least 20 to 30% profit margin. I'm not saying these are a definite no, because if you're able to sell them in large enough quantities, then you can make a nice profit. Take this shop for example. They have the #1 listing on Etsy when I search for a mug. Now, if I dig into their figures, I can actually see that they're generating around $30,000 a month from this store. If we assume a 15% margin, then they're probably making around £4,500 a month in profit, which isn't too bad at all. If they've managed to get a 30% profit margin, then that's even better. If we're evaluating options based purely on potential profit margins, then clothing and wall art are the clear winners in my opinion. It's much easier to inflate the value of products like this. It's the same strategy that designer brands and modern artists have been using for years. I can actually show you some real numbers here. Now, I've sold some wall art before using Gelato. Honestly, I really like Gelato because they have production facilities in over 32 countries. On this point, over 90% of orders are produced in the same country the customer lives in, cutting down shipping times even more. As you can see, my price point was $49.99. And my costs were $25.39 for the product and the printing. There was also a $6.98 shipping cost as well. So if we add those together, that gives us a price of $32.37. Now, if we take those numbers and plug them into the Etsy free calculator, with everything taken into account, I made $12.42 on every sale, which gives me a 25% profit margin on every product. As you can see, it's so easy for your profits to be eaten away. That's why it's so important to pick an item with a high profit margin potential. As I've already spoken about wall art in past videos, I feel like switching it up. So today, let's go with clothing. So what's the best niche to pick? It might seem obvious, but nobody cares about blank clothes. That's where you come in. You need to make them care about what you're selling. You can do this by attaching one of their interests to the item. So I could just make a shirt like this with Stormtrooper on it to attract Star Wars fans. That's the right kind of idea, but it will also get you into a lot of trouble with the law. This is because of one simple word: trademarks. You should always check the text for use of potential trademark infringements, even if it isn't from a famous franchise. Luckily, this is free to do and super simple. It's worth checking the UK and USA trademarks. This is what the American site looks like. Just click on basic word mark search and then type in the phrase. I'm going to use boomers are awesome and click submit. Change this setting to live. There you go. Well, for this one, we look like we're in the clear. Okay, so if I can't use popular films or TV shows, I'll just do something completely original. I like your thinking, but also no. I'm going to say something that might shock you. Don't try to be original. School drills into you the importance of not looking at other people's work. But when it comes to business, this is completely wrong. I have a theory that C-grade students often end up hiring the people who get the A's because of this. There's actually a really good book that talks about this, and it's called Still Like an Artist. It's based on the saying that good artists copy and great artists steal. Honestly, it works just as well for entrepreneurs. Being too original is the biggest trap I see beginners falling into. They feel like they've got to come up with the next big thing and then just end up trying to sell something nobody wants. Yes, you may have spotted a gap in the market, but most likely that gap's there because no one wants what you're selling. I'd say 99% of people fail at this step. So here's what you should actually do. Research the market. I love using Etsy to do this as all the sales information is public. Let's say for this example, I want to sell t-shirts. Now, since the t-shirt niche is extremely competitive, we need to find some good sub-niches. These are pockets of the market that have low competition but very high demand. So let's type in women's t-shirts and sort this by top customer reviews. Now look, this is one you don't want to be taking inspiration from, as it's a clear trademark infringement of DC Comics and Wonder Woman. I mean, if you're going to risk doing this, at least pick a decent film. But seriously, don't infringe on anyone's trademarks. You might get a ton of sales to begin with, but in the long run, it's just not worth it when you run into all the legal trouble. What we're really looking for is shops with lots of reviews, as we can tell from that they're successful. Now, let's click on this one as they look like they're doing very well. Now, let's Let's go on their shop homepage and filter reviews by most recent to see what's selling at the moment. Oh, I'm not going to lie to you, even I like the look of a few of these designs myself. This is a perfect little sub niche. You'll then just have to spend an hour or so going through screenshotting designs that are selling well and take elements from all of them to put in your design. You might think this is a really small market, but this t-shirt here has over 130 reviews. That's important, as the normal rule of thumb is to times that by 10 and then you have the number of sales. So this seller has sold in the region of 1,300 of these t-shirts, bringing in revenue of $43,628 when you take shipping into account. Now, with a 30% profit margin, that would be around $13,000 in profit from this one design. So simple designs really do sell well. And remember, you can have loads of these as they're pretty easy to make. Just to set the record straight, you can't simply copy these designs. Instead, think of it like making a cocktail. You're pulling different elements from various sources, combining proven ingredients. So it's important to draw inspiration from multiple places. Otherwise, you risk getting banned. So if you're going to steal from many. For instance, you could pinch the font from one design, borrow the colors from another, and nab a section of a quote from a third source. The aim here is to whip up a whole bunch of unique designs for your chosen sub niche, because let's face it, we can't always predict what's going to sell like crazy. So what's the best way to create your designs? This step is one of the biggest roadblocks people face. I know so many people with great design ideas, but they don't know how to actually make them look good on a computer. To be honest, I used to be one of those people, but it turns out that it's actually super easy, even for an old boy like me. There are 4 main methods you can use. Firstly, you can use a free tool like Canva. So I've got a list of woodwork related funny quotes here on ChatGPT. I'm going to go with this one. Now, I'm going to take some design elements from other products we found earlier, like the font from this listing and the design from this other one. It's pretty easy to get these mocked up on Canva, and it's also a free tool, which is even better. Then I just have to click here to download the image without a background. Secondly, you could actually buy a template or full design. So if we take this flower t-shirt, for example, and I download the image, then use the Google search by image function, then you're quite often able to actually buy the original source file. Thirdly, and this is one I've actually been using a lot recently, is AI tools to design it for you. Now, I think Midjourney is the best for this kind of thing. Look, it does cost you $10 a month to generate designs and also have the rights to use the images commercially, but it's such a great tool and I think it's worth it. Now, I'm lucky that my son Curtis keeps me up to date with all the new AI tech. If I mentioned Midjourney to the other old boys down the golf club, they wouldn't have a clue what I'm on about. They'd think I'm halfway to my holiday destination. It's super easy to use. You just need to have a free Discord account. Once that's set up, go to Midjourney's website and click on Join Beta. This will connect you to the Midjourney server inside Discord. You might as well join my free Discord group while you're in there, because there's about 40,000 people in there that'll help you out with everything business and making money related. And it's completely free. Click on Add Server, then Me and My Friends, and just give it a name. I'm going to call mine Mark's Designs. Now go back to the Midjourney server, click on the Midjourney bot and add app. There we go. And then pick the server you just made. So I'm going to click Mark's Designs. First, let's get the settings right. Type /settings and you'll get this menu. Select Model 6 and Stylization High. Right, now type in /imagine. Now, if we wanted to make designs like this butterfly t-shirt, then we would type something like this. Butterflies in the style of silhouettes in a tornado pattern on a white background. Now, these look pretty cool. I actually think the colourful version looks nicer. This arrow circle button here will run the same prompt again to give me more options, but I'm going to click V4, which will give me more variations like the fourth version. Once you're happy, then upscale the one you like by pressing the corresponding U button. This just makes the design larger so that you can use it on your product. Then you can just use a background remover to get rid of the white background. I personally use photoroom.com. Finally, you can use professional designers on websites like Upwork and Fiverr. Now, I've done this before with wall art and I've been pretty happy with the results. You just have to make sure that you're very specific with the brief. Here's a look at the brief I gave last time, so you can just copy and tailor it to fit your needs. These are all good methods, so it just depends on your skill set, available time and budget. So now we've got our designs. What's the best print-on-demand website for beginners? This is the site you'll use to order your products, print them, and ship them to your customers. This is an extremely important section, as picking the wrong print provider will result in some of your shipments getting lost, poor customer service, and all-round massive headaches. Most YouTubers recommend the absolute cheapest sites, and to be honest, I've got a real issue with this. The reason a lot of them can charge crazy low prices is because they cut corners in other areas. Wait a minute, I thought you were telling us how we could start with $0. Now you're telling us we got to pay for websites. Well, the cool thing about most print-on-demand sites is you only have to pay once you've made a sale. That way, you actually don't need any money up front. I live my life by the saying, buy nice or buy twice. This essentially means if you go with the cheapest option, then you'll actually end up spending more money in the long run, as you'll have to take the hit for the lost items, and that'll start digging into your profits. I tested out the Gelato website for myself recently, and I've got to say, I was super impressed. The experience was seamless, with both the product quality and the printing quality being excellent. Just look at how great this poster came out. I only ordered it as a sample, but I've actually ended up keeping it because I like it so much. All right, so let's jump onto Gelato and start uploading our design so you can see how easy the process is. So I'm just going to go to the menu on the left-hand side and select Product Catalog, and then select Men's Clothing. I'm then going to pick T-shirts. I think we should be fine with the heavyweight unisex crew neck t-shirts. As I can see, that's their best seller. And to be honest, Gelato has a very high standard of quality anyway. It's nearly $2 cheaper than the other more premium options. And as I said earlier, it's super important to protect your profit margins. All right, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to go with direct to garment for this design. Now, don't get me wrong, embroidery is pretty cool and definitely has that premium vibe, but let's be real, it's pricier. So I'd save that for that design that screams, embroider me. And hey, if you're shelling out the extra bucks for embroidery, make sure it's super obvious when you're promoting the product. After all, if you're paying more, it should seriously ramp up the perceived value of your product. Okay, so I'm going to start with the white option and size large, but I'll also repeat the same process with 7 colors in all sizes. Now it's as simple as dragging and dropping the design we made earlier into this center box. There's also an option down here where you can add different designs to the back, neck and sleeves. But now for this one, I'm just going to keep it simple and do the front. If you're interested in using them and you want to get 50% off your first order, then feel free to sign up with the link gelato.com/mark. They also give me a kickback if you use that link, which I pass on to my video editors. So if you use it, then thanks for supporting the channel. Once you've got all your designs uploaded in their different colors and sizes, it's time to start selling them. But where do I sell my products? I've got a real problem with how most YouTube channels approach this question with one answer. They'll either say Etsy or Shopify, but it really isn't that simple. I'm not interested in rushing through this video to get a little bit of extra attention. I know if you got to this part in the video, then you want to know the facts before you jump into something. So let's go through both of these options so you can decide which is the best route for you, or route for all you American viewers. Firstly, let's talk Etsy. If we look at the figures from February 2023, we can see that Etsy had 460.6 million visitors. That's by far the most out of every print-on-demand marketplace, and that even includes Shopify. In 2022, 26% of sales were made-to-order merch. In other words, a lot of print-on-demand items and 45% of sales involved in an international transaction. This means that Etsy gives you access to a global audience of shoppers. A lot of people commented on one of my previous videos mentioning that I'd overlooked the marketing costs, but I didn't. That's the advantage of marketplaces like Etsy. The customers are already there, searching for these kinds of things. All you need to do is rank high enough in the search results. But it isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Lots of people hype up print on demand on Etsy, but more people fail than succeed. That's just the harsh truth. Etsy don't reveal the percentage of shops that actually succeed, but they have revealed that there are 5.4 million active sellers, and the average monthly sales per user was $2,169 in 2022. But of course, these figures are heavily skewed by the more successful and established shops. In my opinion, the reason for people failing on Etsy is that lots of folks just go with their gut, selling whatever they fancy, instead of really studying the market like I've shown you in this video. But if you stick to the system I've taught you, you'll have a serious leg up on the competition. Now for Shopify. Customer data is one of the most valuable things in business. A general rule of thumb is that a customer's email is worth about $1 a month to a business, as they can use it for advertising to a previous buyer. As Shopify isn't a shared marketplace and instead is your own website, they allow you to collect this valuable information, whereas Etsy doesn't have an option to do this legally. You see, someone has to agree to be on your email list. So yes, you can just download the emails from your Etsy customers, but you can't really get away with adding them to your email list without facing some issues. Not only is it against Etsy's policies, it's also illegal in many countries. Selling on Shopify also allows you to set yourself apart from the competition. The bad thing about Etsy is that your products are always surrounded by your competitors, so you're somewhat forced to compete on price. It's kind of like this YouTube channel. You've probably got tons of other print-on-demand videos recommended in the sidebar. I know I don't have to worry about you clicking off my video though, because it's the best one. Imagine this, you're scrolling through YouTube, but all you're seeing are my videos. It's either stick with me or don't learn anything at all. It's kind of like having a Shopify store. If a customer wants what you're selling, they can't go off and buy it from anyone else. You've got them right where you want them. So Shopify sounds like the clear winner, right? Well, no. Here's what I suggest. When you're starting out as a beginner, it's best to go with Etsy. The customers are already there, which means you don't have to worry about marketing. All you have to focus on is getting better and better at designing products people want to buy. The competition aspect is actually very good for honing your skills, as the market doesn't lie. If your product designs aren't good enough, then you won't make any sales. This will force you to find unique gaps in the market and level up as an entrepreneur. You can also easily connect it with Gelato by going to Menu and Stores. Don't get me wrong, the end game should be Shopify. However, before you start spending crazy amounts of money on marketing for products you don't even know sell, I recommend you post 1,000 listings on Etsy. This will set you back about 20 cents per listing, which will be a total of $200, but the data you gather will be worth far more. Once you've identified your winning products, you can start building a Shopify store and advertising on TikTok. That way you'll know if your products aren't selling on Shopify, then your marketing needs work. If you just skip the Etsy step, then the issue could also be your product, and then it's hard to tell what needs improving. Think of Etsy a bit like a testing ground where you can cast as many fishing lines as possible into the ocean, and when you start catching some big fish, you know it's time to take the next step. So how do beginners sell on Etsy? Once you've created an account, there are 3 hacks that you can do to help you get noticed on Etsy and make more sales. The first hack is to make attractive mock-ups. This is super important as people want to see what your item looks like in the real world, and mock-ups are an easy way for you to show them without having to order all the different colors and designs and taking photos. Mock-ups also seem to make the product look much more homemade, which instantly makes it seem more valuable to customers. Gelato's built-in mock-up studio actually makes this super simple. Now, this one here, there you go, that looks pretty good, so let's go with that. The second hack is to use the best keywords. This is extremely effective as Etsy is a search engine, so the more information you can give them about your product, the better. Of course, you shouldn't use keywords that don't apply to your product, as you only want traffic from people that are interested in buying what you're selling. This is pretty simple to do, so let's go back to the listing we found to inspire our t-shirt design. As we can see, they've used wood shirt men, woodworker shirt, men's funny shirt, funny shirts for men, and Father's Day gift and dad's shirt. So I'll just copy and paste these keywords into my tags and title. It's also worth looking around for different listings in case some of them have other unique keywords you can copy. The third hack is to use premium branding. You need to convey quality and trust. Now, trust is the most important thing in business, and you're not going to get there by looking like a shop at the local market. You need to go for that premium boutique feel. This is a great example of a premium store with a clear identity. You can use the free Shopify name generator to create a name that conveys trust and is relevant to your shop. Then use the name checker website to see if it's available across different platforms. The most crucial platform is Etsy, but you should also check if it's free on other social media platforms and for the domain name availability. When creating your logo and banner, don't spend too much time perfecting it. Instead, focus on making it clean and professional. Canva offers numerous templates that can be helpful. The key to a good Etsy banner is to make it reflect the charm of homemade goods, which corporate banners often lack. Lastly, make sure your shop isn't targeting a completely different audience. I mean, you wouldn't expect to walk into an Apple store and see a washing machine. Even though they could sell them, they understand the importance of maintaining a coherent brand image. If you want to make sales quickly, then you're probably thinking, when should I run paid ads? I understand the appeal of running paid ads as they can instantly give your sales a boost. However, in my opinion, people start using paid ads well before they're actually ready. This means they either end up with no sales, or as soon as they turn paid ads off, their sales completely dry up. I've always built my businesses with an organic first approach. We're living in an age of more free reach than ever before, and I actually think social media companies are going to start limiting organic reach soon, as they must be losing out on millions of advertising dollars. The first thing you need to put your marketing money into is creating short form content. This is great as you can post it across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. It's the first type of content that enables you to reach multiple different platforms, and it's perfect for showing off your products. You'd need to order a few samples, which I'd recommend doing anyway, as you need to double check the quality of the items that you're sending out. Then it's just a case of creating some kind of story around your product. Don't just get fancy shots of someone wearing it or using it. Actually make it a part of a story. Remember, people are on social media to be entertained, so if your content isn't entertaining, then it won't reach as many people. The more views you get, the more people will buy. It's as simple as that. The beauty of doing it this way is that you're able to see what videos perform best with your target audience before putting any ad spend into boosting the views. Once you're seeing some organic success, it's time to start supercharging it with some paid ads. This way you're building your side hustle on solid foundations. I've seen so many people lose their Facebook ad accounts and it's just ruined their businesses. These platforms don't have enough employees to oversee everything, so they rely on tech to police it for them. Don't leave your income in the hands of AI. But that's not the biggest thing people do wrong. So, what's the most common mistake? A lot of people get drawn in by the huge figures in a frenzy, and everyone is asking the same question. Should I sell now before it gets worse? But there's more to this than meets the eye. If you followed me for a while, you know I'm a serious investor who's obsessed with the stock market. And since so many of you have started investing because of my videos, I feel a responsibility to give you my honest take on the situation. So before you panic, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture together. Every market crash has a cause, and this one isn't random. There are three main triggers behind it, and all of them tie back to one man, Donald Trump. Now, before anyone jumps to conclusions, this isn't about politics. I'm not here to take sides, and as a British investor looking in, my only concern is how this impacts investors like you and me. So let's break down the 3 biggest triggers behind this crash, why they matter, and what you can do to benefit from all this mayhem. Trigger 1 is Trump's trade war. Trump has always pitched himself as the ultimate deal maker. He's the guy who fights for American jobs and plays hardball with other countries. But the trade wars he's fighting could increase your weekly shopping bill and cause a recession. The last time the US tried this, it helped trigger the Great Depression, wiping out jobs and wrecking the economy. Now, history might be repeating itself. Stocks are already crashing, prices are rising, and if this spirals, it won't just hurt Wall Street, it'll hit you where it matters most, your bank account. Let me take you back to 1930, when I was just a boy. The US government decided to slap massive taxes called tariffs on imported goods to protect American businesses from foreign competition. It was called the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, and it turned out to be one of the worst economic mistakes in history. At first, it seemed like it would help. American companies wouldn't have to compete with cheap imports and more products would be made in the USA. But there was a big problem. Other countries fought back. Nations that used to trade with the US started raising their own tariffs, making it harder for American businesses to sell products overseas. Trade slowed to an absolute crawl. Businesses collapsed and millions lost their jobs. Instead of fixing the economy, it helped turn a regular recession into the Great Depression, one of the worst financial crises ever. Fast forward nearly a century, and Trump has brought back tariffs in a big way. In February 2025, Trump announced a 10% tariff on Canadian energy imports and a 25% tariff on other Canadian goods. In retaliation, Canada imposed a 25% tariff on American imports. Then in March, Ontario implemented a 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the US, affecting states like New York, Michigan, and Minnesota. However, in my opinion, this was more of a symbolic move that wouldn't have seriously damaged the US economy. However, Trump didn't hold back, and instead of just brushing it off, he fired back by increasing tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminium to 50%. Unlike Canada's move, this wasn't just for show. It hit Canada's manufacturing industry hard while also driving up steel prices for American businesses that rely on imports. But why am I telling you all this? Well, this is where the real problem starts. Tariffs sound good on paper, as they're meant to punish foreign businesses while encouraging more stuff to be made in America. But in reality, they end up hurting regular people more than anyone else. As a business owner who manufactures products and imports from China myself, I know that when businesses are forced to pay more for materials, they don't just absorb the cost, they pass it on to their customers. That means higher prices on cars, appliances, and electronics. In addition to this, food becomes more expensive because supply chains get disrupted, meaning that everyday essentials cost more, stretching household budgets even further. On top of that, other countries aren't just sitting around while Trump raises tariffs. They're forming new alliances to trade without the US. China is leading the charge with the BRICS alliance, partnering with Brazil, Russia, India, and South Africa to reduce dependence on American trade. So the more the US isolates itself, the more other countries look elsewhere for business. So what's my opinion on all of this as an experienced investor? Well, if Trump goes all in on this trade war, history suggests it'll do more harm than good. While some industries might get a short-term boost, the long-term damage, such as higher prices, weaker global ties, and a slowing US economy, could far outweigh any benefits. But if I'm being completely honest, I don't think Trump actually wants high tariffs. I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. Trump is, at his core, a businessman and a deal maker, just like me. That's why I believe he's using tariffs as a negotiation tactic, not as an end goal. So if that's true, what does he actually want? Well, I think he's after free global trade, but on terms that favour the US. And if he pulls that off, it could pay off big time. However, the problem is his approach is creating massive uncertainty. The constant backtracking, new tariffs and mixed signals are spooking the stock market because investors hate unpredictability. If this drags on too long, it could shake confidence so much that it pushes the economy towards recession, something even Trump's own administration has admitted they're willing to risk. Right now, the market isn't just reacting to tariffs, it's reacting to uncertainty about what comes next. And in investing, uncertainty is one of the biggest killers of confidence. Trigger 2 is Trump's stance on NATO. Trump has openly questioned the role of NATO, the military alliance that protects Western countries. He suggested that the US shouldn't keep defending allies unless they start paying more for their own protection. While that might sound like a fair demand, if the US steps back from its NATO commitments, it could create a power vacuum that countries like Russia and China might exploit. Markets hate uncertainty. The second investors sense that world stability is at risk, they panic. If NATO weakens, it could encourage Russia to push further into Europe, or even lead to new conflicts as countries try to adjust to a world without the USA acting as the global police force. More conflicts mean higher military spending, unpredictable trade relationships, and spikes in energy prices, all of which can rattle the stock market. Trigger 3 is Trump's secret plan. There's been a theory circulating that Trump may be crashing the stock market on purpose. I know that sounds crazy, but there is some evidence for it. Trump has never been a fan of high interest rates. In fact, he's called them ridiculous and has openly attacked the Federal Reserve for keeping them high. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The Fed is technically independent, meaning Trump can't just tell them to cut interest rates, but their decisions are based on economic conditions. If the stock market crashes and a recession seems inevitable, the Fed has no choice but to step in and slash interest rates to prevent a total meltdown. But why does Trump want lower rates? Well, because high interest rates slow down the economy. Businesses borrow less, stocks struggle, people stop spending as much, and for Trump, who loves growth and hates anything that makes America look weak, they're a problem. It's not just about making the stock market go up, it's way bigger than that. The US government is drowning in $36.5 trillion of debt, and when interest rates are high, the cost of that debt goes through the roof. Think of it like a massive credit card bill. Imagine you owe $36,500 and your credit card company charges 10% interest per year. That means before you even start paying down the actual debt, you're being charged $3,650 every single year just in interest. Now imagine the credit card company suddenly slashes the interest rate to 3%. Instead of paying $3,650 per year, your interest drops to just $1,095 annually. That's a saving of $2,555 every single year. Now you can put this money towards actually paying off your debt instead of just keeping up with your interest payments. Well, that's exactly what Trump might be doing, but on a $36.5 trillion scale. If the Fed lowers interest rates, I'm going to be gifting her $1,000 as well as arming her with the knowledge she needs to take the plunge as a complete beginner investor so she can start her journey to becoming rich and financially free. There's an old saying, be the person you needed when you were younger. And that got me thinking, sometimes with investing, the hardest part is just making a start. So if you're thinking about investing but find the whole process a bit daunting or have started and want to find out some more, then this is the video for you. We're going to be going through everything step by step, from personal finances and taxes to investment strategies and actually setting up the core account. So make sure to watch to the end so you don't miss out on some great investment knowledge. We'll get started as soon as you hit that like button for the LTube algorithm. So Laura, what do you think when I say the word investing?
I get a little bit scared. I know it's the way to go. I'd love to learn a bit more about it and put my money in the best place, but if I'm honest, I don't really know much at all.
Well, it's normal to be a little bit scared, that's for sure. Judging by our analytics, not many girls are that into investing. Why do you think that is?
I'm not really sure why that is, but I'd like to learn a bit about it and show that it's possible for anyone to do, use it as a way to get rich.
Well, it's not all about getting rich, it's more about building your long-term wealth, but we'll get into that later.
What? Are we always here to get rich.
I'll tell you what I can do. How about this? I'm going to give you $1,000 to invest in anything you like.
That sounds really good, thank you. Let's get going.
I think we should. Let's dive in. People always say to me that they'll get good at managing their finances when they earn more money. But the truth is, anyone can go broke, even celebrities. Take Michael Jackson, for example. He was the king of pop with an estimated estate value of over $236 million when he died. But he left debts of over $400 million. So Laura, how would you say your finances are at the moment?
I'd say they're okay. I don't look into them too much. If I want to go out for a meal with my friends, I'll spend the money. But I do try to save about half of what I earn. I just don't really tend to track it.
Okay, well, tracking is a really good idea, and it's really easy nowadays to track your money using some of the apps that are available, and by tracking it you'll tend to spend less, so that's always good. But do you have any credit card debt or anything like that?
I don't. I spend my money on my credit card, but then I do pay it off every month.
That's great. You've been watching the videos, haven't you?
Yes.
It's always best if you use your credit card because it'll help you build your credit score. And if you pay it off at the end of every month, you're going to pay no interest whatsoever. And it's a win-win.
Oh, okay. So why is building your credit score so important?
Well, at some point in the future, you're going to probably want to borrow, be that for a house or for a business. You never know what you want to borrow for. And if you've got a good credit score, it's going to cost you a lot less in interest fees, and you're going to find it easier to borrow in the first place. So that's why it's so important to build a good credit score.
Oh, okay.
Taxes are something we should all care about, as at the end of the day, why would you want to give away more of your hard-earned money than you absolutely need to? When it comes to investing, in most cases, you are required to pay taxes on the profits that you make. This is called capital gains tax, and it's between 10 and 20% depending on your income. It's really important to minimise the tax you pay in these areas, so you're able to invest more for your future. And there are two really simple ways that you can take action. Now, the first is to open up a tax advantaged account, and the second is to start some sort of side hustle or business so you can write off all your expenses.
Why is a side hustle a good thing to have?
Well, it's all about when you pay your tax. If you get paid $100, for example, from work and you want to go out for a nice meal, well, it's all well and good, but you've already paid your tax, haven't you? So if that's 20%, $20 is already gone. Now, with a side hustle, you get your $100 and you want to go out for a meal, you can go out for a meal and you can then write that off. So when you come to pay your tax, you've got less money to pay your tax on, so you get taxed less.
Is that like bad?
No, it's 100% allowed because you're having a business dinner, you're talking business, and that business needs to be done over a dinner, so that is an allowed thing.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I have been thinking about doing a side hustle for a while now. I think that's always something I've wanted to do in the back of my mind, but I haven't actually got around to it. It's just deciding what I want to do. I've been thinking about a lot of things, like I love seeing how people can do like Gymshark modelling on the side and being a bit of an influencer. That sounds amazing to me.
It's extremely important to research any investment before throwing all your money in. So Laura, have you heard of any before, and is there anything you've invested in?
I haven't invested in anything. Obviously I hear a lot about like cryptocurrency and stocks and shares, but it's all like a completely different world to me and I don't know anything about it. But I know that my money isn't very good sitting in my bank account. I want to do something with it.
Well, your money sitting in your bank account is actually losing you money because you're probably earning about 0.1% interest per year, and that literally is nothing. And with inflation at more than that, around about 2 to 3% a year, that's actually losing value year on year.
I think the thing that I was looking at doing is buying a buy-to-let or something.
Okay, well, we can discuss that and run through the main investments which are good for beginners in order of least to most risky, so you can then decide what you want to do with that $1,000 I gave you.
Oh wow, okay, so the less risky it is,
generally the less reward,
okay,
but the higher risk,
the better the reward.
Now, an index fund, simply put, is a basket of stocks. So instead of buying hundreds of different stocks separately and having to manage them all at once, you can buy into a simple, low-cost index fund.
Do you get to choose what stocks they are?
No, you don't get to choose what stocks they are, but you can choose from a lot of different index funds.
Oh, okay. And does it matter what country you invest in?
Back when I was younger, I might have gone for an index fund based in the UK. But of course, nowadays, with the invention of the internet, of course, these companies in America, they are absolutely global. So they're always looking for more growth, be it in China, Australia, wherever it happens to be. So by investing in these American companies, you've got a global player there, haven't you? And they're passively managed as well. So there's not a manager there, it's all done automatically. That's why the costs are so low.
If I invest all my money in like a risky one, could I then lose it all? And it sounds like a silly question, but could I lose more? Could I go in debt or something?
Well, when you invest, your capital is always at risk. You have to remember that, but hopefully over the long term it'll be good. Now, unless you leverage your money, you can't actually lose more than you invest. So if you invested, for example, $100, the most you can lose is $100. However, if you leverage your money and bought things on margin, then of course you could lose more than you actually invested.
Okay, what does leveraging your money mean?
Well, leveraging your money is when you borrow money against your investment, or it's also known as margin. So for example, if you invested in a share, say you wanted to buy $100 worth of shares, but they were offering you 2.5 margin, you could actually have another $250 to go with yours. So you'd actually have an investment of $350. Of course, then you could lose that whole $350. Next is investing in yourself with a side hustle or further education. This is a low risk because the power is in your hands. Starting a side hustle has limitless potential returns, which is exactly what you want when you're trying to build wealth. So does this sound like an option to you?
Yeah, it sounds really good to me. I like the idea of investing in myself, not just getting my nails done and eyelashes done, obviously, but doing things like university, but it's kind of, you don't see the return straight away.
So how have you found that coming from university into the workplace?
So I feel like just with my degree didn't get me a job. You have to have other employability skills as well, and a lot of places often want a lot of experience and a lot of time in things that I haven't had time to do. So I definitely see the value in investing in yourself and enhancing your skills to make you more employable.
You've also thought about and mentioned side hustles as well, so of course you can invest into that.
I do love photography, a bit of videography. My mum's friend had a wedding and she didn't have a photographer, so I hopped in last minute and managed to do that, do a bit of video as well.
And did you do that as a paid job?
I did it for a bottle of gin. So,
So you're cheap then, that's what you're saying, aren't you?
No, I did it for free.
Well, sometimes that can be a really good investment as well. When you do a job for free, you're building up a portfolio. And again, quite often you need to do 3 or 4 jobs to build that portfolio up. So when you do want to charge people, you can show them exactly how good you are. Next up, we've got individual stocks, which are a medium risk. An individual stock is investing into one specific company. For example, Amazon would be considered an individual stock. The returns can be higher as it brings more exposure to one investment, but stocks can go either way. So I only invest in individual stocks with high conviction.
So a stock with high conviction, does that mean that it's going to give you a big return and that's why you invest in those ones?
Well, what it means is that you've done your homework on the individual stock. You've looked into the fundamental analysis of the company and you can see that it should give you a high return over the long term.
So fundamental analysis, that sounds a little bit complicated.
Well, actually it's not complicated at all, and you can find out all this information on Yahoo Finance, and you can pull up the company you're interested in and look at their balance sheets and things like that, and their profit and loss and where the company is going. And also it's important to look at the leadership of the company as well.
Okay.
Next we come to real estate, and I'm putting this as high risk for beginners, as real estate often requires a mortgage, which can mean taking on quite a substantial amount of debt. However, real estate is a great way to accelerate wealth and often performs really well during inflation.
I've always looked at Airbnb and I'd love to do that kind of thing.
If you're looking to do Airbnb, you've really got to make sure that that property can stand on its own without that platform, because
Watch expert ever. But it wasn't always this way. Today I want to understand what makes Nico tick. This means diving into his background, his businesses, and his deepest insecurities. This is a story you don't want to miss a second of, as you've never seen him open up like this before.
This is something I haven't digged in many years, if you know what I mean. So
let's wind his rags to riches story back to the beginning.
now, as I understand it, you were brought up in Amsterdam and you moved to Ireland. So what initiated that big move?
a change in life. I needed a change in life desperately. Being unhappy, being lost, just a change of scenery, change of friends. I wasn't rolling in the right circles, and I wanted to achieve something in my life. I just wanted to be happy, and I wasn't.
So what was the dream?
I had the opportunity to prove myself in Northern Ireland playing football. I moved to Northern Ireland, packed everything I had, but unfortunately, I broke my ankle in literally my first month.
So your dreams came shattering down there. So how did that feel mentally? I mean, that puts a big void in your life.
I was devastated. Achieving becoming a footballer, that was my main goal. It was all I knew. I wasn't doing well at school. I don't have any diplomas. That's all I wanted to do, and that's all I did when I was younger. I didn't achieve it. I let my parents down, and I've lived with that for many years after. My parents gave up everything for me to clear the road so I can play football, and I can maybe even make it a job. I remember my first surgery in my left knee. It was just a simple surgery. You call it a meniscus surgery. You drill 3 holes to do a camera and fix whatever they fix, and over with. We all thought that was it. But all of a sudden, listen, the first surgery, we found the problem and we couldn't fix it. And it's like, oh, okay, talk to me. How do we fix it? So I'm like, we'll have to reconstruct your entire knee and this and that. And it's like, but like, what does that mean? What does that mean? It meant like that I had like 5 or 10% chance to play football again. That's the first time I've ever seen my father cry. That was rough. That was rough at that time. I have never experienced pain in my life like it, right? If you're ever in a moment of absolute desperation, ask yourself this question. God, if you exist, show yourself, because now I need you the most. Fuck, don't put that shit on camera, please, but fuck you.
But the thing is, at 17, you're not equipped to be able to deal with these emotions, are you?
No,
that's the trouble.
This is something I haven't digged in many years, if you know what I mean. So, wow. I don't know if I told myself this. I don't know if I fell asleep. I don't know. Whatever it is, because I always try to look at things very rational, black and white. But damn right, I had a period where I had no pain. How to break me in that way? Like, fuck me.
Can you see the ball or what? Yeah! You saw that?
Pride and opinion in the watch business as it is today is the first time I actually succeeded in life. After everything I've done, I didn't do well at school. In anything I've ever done, every job I've ever had, I got fired.
Do you have a problem with authority?
Yes, significantly. Yeah. And I'm always late as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have a similar problem with being bossed around at work, and I think we resigned in a similar way. I mean, I literally had enough, and I went, that's it, I'm going. There's my notice, I'm off. And I think you had a similar situation.
I remember me driving into the office, and you need to go into the basement, and that's the parking, you park up. And I remember opening the door, and I stepped out of the car, and I knew when I looked around that this was going to be the last time I was going to be here. It's really weird. And I resigned there and then, within 15 minutes, I jumped back in the car.
Look at this door here, guys. Look at it. Oh, it's a safe door.
Pretty slice book for tomorrow.
I can't even move it.
Wow. So what you see here is basically everything from about £1,000 upwards to $500,000 to even further than that. From extremely rare vintage to really, really cool, quirky watches. Everything you see is watches that I really, really love, and that's what I want to display. Watches that I love. That's the watches I want to sell. That's why I don't sell certain brands. I refuse to sell certain brands because I just don't like them. Yeah. It's passion above profit. That's how I approach it.
So you didn't have a job, you didn't have any plans. What was your first move?
Funny enough, in any of my companies that I have, I've never written a business plan. I just knew I just wanted to go into the watch world. I'm obsessed with watches, and I fixed and repaired watches as a side hustle, making a few quid. But how do you make money with watches? And that's literally where I looked at. I can either go ahead with repairing and fixing watches, but I'm not making really good money, not good enough to maintain myself. Let's try sell it then.
So what was the first watch you bought and sold?
Tudor Pelagos, Breitling Navy Timer, and a Rolex Datejust, reference number 116234, Black Dial.
So straight in?
Straight in, no kissing.
No plan B?
If you give yourself the slightest possibility that you have a safety net or there's an exit, and you'll never ever push yourself to the limit. Never.
Well, selling one or two watches is one thing, but scaling that, how did you bridge the gap?
I got a lot of help, a lot of incredible people. I'm a foreigner in a country that isn't mine, selling watches at the boot of my car. I mean...
That's mad, isn't it?
That's fucking mad. I don't get why people actually trusted me at the time. I wouldn't have. Like a guy that no one knows, who are you? I could have easily swapped it for a fake one. That's not me. In my small way, I wanted to make a small impact on the watch industry.
So how does it feel to have this vault here with this massive collection of watches in?
It is a really, really special feeling. I'm not very often in the shop anymore, but to give you an idea, when I started my business and when I got the shop fitted, and it cost me about 26 or 25,000 pounds to fit the store up, and that was the last money I had at the time. I didn't really have any watches because I had to sell everything to build the shop. I sat here on that chair for 2.5 years, every single day at 8 o'clock sharp till 6 o'clock, every single day, including a Sunday, to just try to sell some watches. And the funny bit is I didn't even have a card machine. I've sat on that chair for 2.5 years every day, no daylight, nothing, just to build the business to where it is now. It's unbelievable, like.
It's great, isn't it?
Aye.
So what's the most expensive watch you've ever sold? Because that's got to put you on such a high as well.
The most expensive watch that my team and myself have ever sold was $7 million US.
$7 million. So was that one lump sum? Here's a watch, here's $7 million.
No, it was different. It was, here's the money, here you have the watch.
In reverse. So you always mention your team and you're very respectful of those.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you have made it on your own?
You're only as good as the people you have around you, right? And I have incredible people around me, right? And genuinely, to scale a business, no one can ever scale a business alone. It's impossible. You can have an idea, you can have visionary. You're not a superhuman, right? I am not very good in organizing things. I am most probably the most chaotic person on the planet. But if I commit to something, I do it, and I will finish that job. Why I wouldn't be able to do it with my team is because everyone has his qualities.
Well, I think the mark of a good businessman is to recognise someone that can do something better than yourself.
Oh.
And as soon as you get to that stage, you keep recognising parts of your business that can be done better by someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
Hello. Hiya. All right.
Stephanie, meet Mark.
Hello.
Ashley,
How are
meet
you,
Mark.
Stephanie? All
Nice
right.
to meet you.
All right then. Ashley, did you say? Yeah. Hi. All right then.
So this is where the magic happens. Admin, office, my personal life, and all sorts of things are being arranged here.
I mean, that's a job, isn't it? Organising here. My life.
That's a nightmare.
I like the mural on the wall. Brilliant, isn't it?
So this is the Amsterdam Arena. This is a surprise. This was Stephen's surprise whenever we moved in. A bit of home. A bit of home on a pitch I was supposed to play.
More magic.
James's, all those photos As you see on Instagram, these beautiful fucking photos, that's James. So everything is taken
Nice to meet you,
specific
James.
way. James, this is Mark.
It's nice to meet you. So the pictures obviously are the aid to selling, aren't they? And without a good photographer, he'd be no one, would he?
Exactly. Exactly.
So everything was going well. So was it plain sailing from there on?
Not really, no.
Tell me about it.
COVID hit. COVID changed my life.
The coronavirus is the biggest threat this country has faced for decades. Close all shops. You must stay at home.
Our business stopped, mate. No one was buying nothing. I didn't know what to do. I was panicking. I took half my stock and sold this at big losses. I gave up on my company on the first week of lockdown. I gave up. I just gave up. It was done. I failed again. I'm a disappointment again.
That's lived with you for a long time, this disappointment thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Not being good enough.
Not being good enough. No. That's my entire life. I always had the feeling I had to fight, and I always had the feeling I had to prove myself. After a week of feeling sorry for myself, I just manned up. And the first thing I did is I called Stephen, the manager at Goldsmiths. Stephen, I know we've talked about this for a very long time, and I always joked about, but I'm dead serious. Are you joining my business? And I don't know if I can afford you, but are you joining my business? Because I can't do this alone. I can't save this ship alone. I can't save this ship, this sailing ship that is now floating somewhere without any direction. I can't save this myself. I need your help. There's $250,000 here on this bank account for all the shit I sold, right? It's gonna be a risk, and I'm not gonna promise anything, but it's basically do or die. From that moment, we started thinking, how can we do this? We need to fix the website. We need to fix this.
So what started the YouTube journey?
The fact that we needed an alternative way of marketing. We needed a different way of marketing. We needed to save the business, because that bank account, that $250,000 was going down very, very fast.
And starting YouTube for an older chap isn't the easiest thing in the world to do, is it? I know
Are you
from
calling me
experience.
old? Are you calling me old here?
Well, I'd call myself a young 55, so that's about 45. I'd call you an older 35, so that makes you 45. So I reckon we're on a level here.
All right, fair enough.
But it's quite a daunting thing, isn't it, starting a YouTube channel?
It saved my life, it saved the business, and it gave everyone a job today.
Oh my God, this is so official.
Nothing against China.
Oh, we got 100K! Caffeine is good for me.
Film as much as you want.
It's my baby.
I will get a tattoo.
A very good morning from California.
Subscribe.
You found a niche where you roast celebrities about their watches and watch collections. Have you ever had any kickback from that?
Recently, I did for the first time, yes. Funny enough, I got my first lawsuit. Well, it was brilliant.
Did you enjoy opening that?
I'm actually laughing my balls off.
I was just going to say, did you laugh at it or did you cry? Because it's one or the other normally.
No, I laugh at it.
Ideas and ambition, but without action, the life you've always dreamt of will start to fade away. Every day you wait, the more time you waste. And if you're not careful, your life will start to look a little something like this. Flat, predictable, and totally uninspiring. This is the reality for most people, spending the past 5 years in the same job with maybe a couple of pay rises if you're lucky. You can even see after these pay rises, the line doesn't improve that much and sometimes even goes down. This is because the more people earn, the more they tend to spend. The worst part of all is that this lifestyle pattern has become normalized by society, telling you that you're lazy and don't have what it takes to be successful. But even if this has been you for the past 2, 3, 4+ years, it doesn't have to be you this year. I don't believe you're lazy. You're just trapped in a system designed to keep you spinning your wheels on a flat line, convincing you that slow progress is the only way. So what you're feeling isn't laziness, it's frustration with a path that was never designed to help you thrive. Today's video is all about my 5-stage process to escape this trap and start creating some real momentum in your life. So let's get to it. Stage 1 is called stagnation, and I'd imagine that is likely where you are right now. The reason you feel like you've been thrown in at the deep end without any preparation or guidance is because that's exactly what's happened. You leave school and get your first job and that's it. You're left to your own devices. So you play it safe by sticking it out in the same job, taking zero chances. If you stay in this stage too long, you risk becoming a debt slave where your income barely keeps up with your monthly expenses. Right now, the national debt clock is sitting at $36 trillion and increasing by the second. If this doesn't prove that our society is built on debt, then I don't know what will. People are owning fewer houses, fewer cars and fewer luxuries as the trend of renting instead of owning grows. This isn't just happening because times are changing. The elite have made their plans clear with something called the Great Reset. This aims to shift power away from people by depriving them of ownership and controlling it all themselves. Imagine the government owning your home and then letting someone else live there whenever you're away. This is the future they want, and it means escaping society's trap will be nearly impossible. They've sold us the lie that money doesn't make you happy. This was created by the rich to control the poor, keeping us dependent on state pensions that barely cover anything. In reality, money equals freedom, and freedom equals happiness. The rich are just going to keep getting richer, so why not just join them? If you can recognize this stage early, then you can take those calculated risks to get out before it's too late. Don't be part of the 58% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, which I reckon will increase over the next few years. The first action you take is the most important. Start by gaining full control of your finances. Track every dollar you spend and be honest about what's essential and what's a luxury. Use this awareness to automate your savings so you consistently put money aside each month, no matter how small the amount. At the end of the day, even your Xbox is smart enough to save your game progress, so why not save your funds? The next stage is called ignition. Now, believe it or not, more than 50% of people never even get to this stage, which means this is when you might start to see a difference between you and your friends. At this stage, you're doing everything you can to break out of stagnation, but it's pretty hard because you've got a couple of things that are holding you back. First is your friends. They won't always like your new attitude, as it forces them to either change themselves or be left behind. Both of these things are very painful. So instead, they will try to drag you back down to their level, as that's the easier option. I'm sure you've experienced this before. When you tell a friend about one of your achievements, they don't seem that happy for you and try to shift the conversation to be all about them. The second issue you're going to face is inflation. Keeping all the money you save in the bank will actually slow you down in the long run and create more stagnation stages along the way. So, how does this happen? Well, due to inflation, the value of cash in your account diminishes year after year. Here's a calculator that shows you the impact of inflation on your savings over time. Now, let's say you have $5,000 in your bank account and you're not earning any interest. If inflation happens at a rate of 2.5% a year, which is pretty normal, in 20 years, your $5,000 will still look like $5,000 in your bank account, but it will only be able to buy the same amount of stuff as $3,051 could buy today. So even though the numbers don't change, the real value of your money shrinks because things get more expensive. That's why saving money in a way that grows over time is so important. So now let's compare that with a scenario where you invest your money. So if you were to invest that same $5,000 into something like the S&P 500 and average a 7% annual return adjusted for inflation, the estimated value of your money after 20 years would grow to over $20,000. However, it's important to note that there are no guarantees. Investment returns can go up and down, and past performance is not a guarantee of future results. So this really shows the power that compounding returns can have over time. Instead of letting inflation eat away at your hard-earned cash. If you want to get involved with investing, then I'd recommend you download the Trading 212 app, where you can invest as little as £1 or euro to get started. Even if you manage to invest £5 or euros per day for the next few months, it will really help you get started with those first steps and break out of that stagnation stage. Since I was planning to talk about Trading 212 anyway, I reached out to them to see if they'd be interested in sponsoring this portion of the video. They agreed and are offering a free fractional share worth up to £100 to anyone that uses the code Tilbury when they create an account. Plus, you can get more free shares by inviting your friends. Both of you will get a free share as long as they fund their account. I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested. Just remember only to invest what you can afford to, and don't starve yourself of cash, as there's a lot we need to do in the next stage. Next is the acceleration stage. Now, this is where you're starting to gain some real momentum, but what got you here won't be enough to carry you to the next stage unless you want to wait decades to achieve financial freedom. This is the time to accelerate. You need to fully commit to taking advantage of current opportunities, as they won't be around forever. At this stage, there are 3 C's that I focused on, which helped me accelerate my wealth dramatically: cash flow, connections, and confidence. Let's start with cash flow. You need a constant supply of money coming into your bank account so that you can use it to generate more wealth. Think of cash flow as the fuel for your financial engine. The best way to generate cash flow is to start a side hustle that provides immediate income. This doesn't have to be your billion-dollar unicorn idea. It can be a small, service-based side hustle with low startup costs that meets a specific need. Whether it's